if you're a runner, it's quite a mindful activity. I mean, if you try and run and your head is elsewhere and you're thinking about work and you're thinking about the meeting you had this afternoon, sooner or later you're going to end up on your face.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Ricky from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
And today, the question is, how do I stop feeling so tired? But before we get into that, Paul, we should just remind everybody that this is part of a mini-series of The Question Is that explores the questions that we often get from the people that we coach. And when we're faced with these questions, these are the sorts of things we might explore with our coachees, with the people that we talk to. So, how do I stop feeling so tired then?
Or you could try sleeping occasionally. You party animal, burning the candle at both ends.
Well, I thought this was going to be a really short podcast, in all fairness. I thought this was, right, turn the alarm off, go and get some kip, get your batteries recharged, and away you go.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because I think if you ask the average, if you sort of went to a friend and went, "Oh, I'm feeling really drained," most people would go, "Well, you've had some late nights, or you're getting up too early, or you just need a break." And maybe that's true. Maybe there are periods in your life where I think we all kind of work, super super hard, and you need a break. But I think a lot of the time when we're coaching people, actually it's not as simple as that. That's not what's really going on, because they wouldn't come to a coaching session going, "Well, I've had 20 late nights in a row. Why do I feel tired?" They'd know that already. They're smart people.
Yeah, well, you kind of hope so. But I suppose it's got, when you're doing things that you find difficult, for me, it's if I've got a report to read, I find that really tough. I find it, I've got to put a lot of effort into reading and understanding that, and I don't enjoy it. So therefore, it's going to tire me out, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you think of the opposite of tired, and there's that, I never get this guy's name right. It's is it Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who came up with the idea of flow, which is almost the opposite of what we're talking about here. This idea that there are points in time when you can work on something where you're just so lost in it, you're so attuned to the way you're working and what you're working on, you basically lose track of time. You lose, it's requiring minimal energy cognitively. Your brain's not, having to do very much to do what you want to do. And we've all been in that experience. We've just sort of done something and I love doing this. This is great. Oh, it's got dark. Oh, hours have gone by. Everyone's got home type thing. And what we're talking about here is the opposite of that, is where you're doing stuff that is not in flow. You're having to literally eke out every moment of it, and it's draining you.
Yeah, and that's where you'll find things like procrastination kick in, where I'll go and put the kettle on and I'll come back to that. I'll go and grab a biscuit. I'll go and let the dog out or whatever it might be, because you're almost finding any excuse not to do stuff because you just know it's going to drain you.
Yes. And that's interesting. You raised procrastination. I've not thought of it through that lens, because procrastination, again, it's like, sort of pop psychology. You go on YouTube and people will go, "It's all about organizing yourself." And you go, procrastination's got nothing to do with organization. It's emotion. I need to do something that's emotionally taxing. I'll watch a cat video instead because that feels better.
You always go to cat videos. Why?
I don't know why. That's what I watch. I like cat videos. What can I say?
But you got dogs. You don't even have a cat.
That's why I put them on, just to torment the dogs. This is what I really like. But yeah, I think so. I think there is a few check-ins I would have if I was coaching somebody.
So we've got cats, dogs, and chickens. Is that what you said?
That's the other reason why you might be feeling tired, is you've had too many of Ricky's jokes. That's quite draining.
Yes, definitely.
I've completely lost my train of thought now. Thanks for that. So I always think of this in terms of thinking about this in terms of body, mind, and spirit, just as an easy way to remember it. So when you get to the body bit, what you're really saying is, yeah, are you doing the right things to look after yourself? And that might sound like a bit of a twee question, and who are we to, as a coach, to ask that? But I've noticed over the years that I do this. I know a lot of the people I coach do this. I've seen colleagues do this, which is when they get busy, they take out of their lives to free up time the very activities that were keeping them sane in the first place, that were keeping them even keeled.
Oh, so this could be things like exercise. So
Yeah.
they stop,
Stop going
let's
to the
imagine
gym.
I'm a runner and I stop running or I stop going to the gym.
Yeah.
Um, and 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 perhaps even I think you used this example in another podcast actually, where there was a lady you were coaching who, because she couldn't do a 5K run, didn't do any running, as opposed to, well, can you do a kilometer? Can you do half a kilometer?
Yeah.
Something that gets you out. So, you don't have to give up everything. If things are busy, well, fit what you can into whatever time you have available.
And for me, there's two bits to this. One is understanding there are things in your life that you probably take for granted because you just do them, but they do something for you. And I think gym is a classic one for a lot of people. Going to the gym is a recovery activity. I know it doesn't feel like that when you're in the gym, but it's giving your brain a rest. It's giving your body a flex. It's, if you sit at a desk all day and you go out for a run of an evening, it's changing your posture, it's changing your body chemistry, it's doing something really important to you. And it might be that that's the thing that gives you the energy to get up tomorrow and do the other stuff. And therefore, if you get busy and take it away, it's a bit like going, this is a really weird analogy, but you'll get there. It's a bit like going, when I'm really busy making phone calls, the thing I do to make me make more phone calls is I stop recharging my phone. And you go, that, yeah, as a strategy, that's got a very defined endpoint. Yeah, and I think everybody kind of has things, and it's different, and that's why I go for sort of the body stuff. It might be exercise, it might be sleep patterns. You might start getting up earlier, not getting enough sleep, interrupted sleep. Quite common are people who go, I wake up in the middle of the night and think of stuff to do with work, so I start sending emails at 4 a.m. and then I can't get back to sleep. And
Yeah.
if you've got that playing out, you need a strategy for that. Even if it's just a notebook by your bed where you just write a few things down, let them go and go back to sleep.
And I
Um,
imagine the obvious thing here is diet as well, what you eat, because the temptation when busy, you grab fast food
yeah.
or even skip meals, which is not helpful either. Um, so all of those things kind of combined will impact your body's ability to refresh and re-energize.
Yeah. And it's different for all of us. So, I mean, I don't know what yours is. Mine is always to do with food. When I get really busy, I don't want to cook. I don't want to eat healthy. I just want to grab quick food. And quick food tends to be fast food. It tends to be less healthy. And very quickly you get in this spiral. I think for other people I've worked with, it's more to do with exercise or it's more to do with waking up in the night. You'll kind of work out which one yours is, but when you work it out, at the times you are the busiest, you have to work a little bit extra to protect the things that keep you going through the busy period, or you're going to drain yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's this mindset, I suppose, that says, I haven't got the time to stop. I haven't got the time to
Yeah.
do that or take the time to go and do the run or prepare a meal. And actually, this old adage of change is as good as a rest, doing something different can be re-energizing in itself because it allows you to focus on something else, even if it's for a short period of time, that then means you come back to what you were doing, re-energized, refreshed, and perhaps even with new impetus because you've cleared your mind while you've been doing something else.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, I always think, you take two slightly similar but different examples. If you're a runner, it's quite a mindful activity. I mean, if you try and run and your head is elsewhere and you're thinking about work and you're thinking about the meeting you had this afternoon, sooner or later you're going to end up on your face. Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple process. But on the other end of the spectrum, I quite like doing a late night dog walk because it's where I reflect on the day. And for that period of time, it's just me and the dog, and we're plodding along, and I'm going, what did happen today? And sorting it all out in my head so that when I do go to bed and sleep, I'm not doing it then. So I actually get the rest and rejuvenation and masses of beauty sleep that I actually need. Desperately need, to be fair.
So when you think about this then, what because you do a lot of work on this, what are the practical things I can do to perhaps take some control? So what are the triggers I should look out for, and what should I do about it?
I think it's as simple as going, when I'm at my best, what's the balance that I have in my life? What's the mix of things that I do between work and other? Yeah. And look at those things and go, if they, assuming that at my best I am in balance, how do I, when I'm at my busiest, maintain at least some of the other things to preserve the balance in my life? So if when I'm at my best, I'm going to the gym twice a week, or I'm cooking healthy meals, or I'm spending time, with my kids or with my partner or with my friends because I'm socializing a bit more. If those are the things that happen when you're working at your best, they're probably there for a reason. They're probably important to you in some way. So just go notice them, and then just do a little bit of extra effort to go, right, in this busy period, how am I going to maintain them? Maybe not at the same level, but maintain, some elements of them so I can get the good things back out of them to keep me going through the busy time. And that's kind of in the body space. Obviously, there's mind and spirit. We'll come to those in a second.
What about where perhaps I know I've got that difficult thing that I don't enjoy doing? For me, reading a detailed report, for example.
Okay, so I'm going to put that in the mind space, because I think this is about, how close to me am I working? How close to me am I? Um, am I allowed to be today? So I call this like working with or against your personality.
Okay.
And this can get quite complex because personalities are multifactorial and there's a load of different things. But if you just take it at a really simple level, take something like introversion, extroversion. So all of us are on a scale about, some of us are more extrovert, more that tends to make us more outgoing and more sociable, and we tend to get energy from others more. Some of us more introvert, which makes us more reflective, and we tend to energize from within more. And that, I've oversimplified what introversion, extroversion is, but you get the kind of picture. When you start to understand where you are on that scale, you start to understand where you're going to recharge, where you're going to get energy from. So if you're a very social, outgoing person, the reality is understanding that the activities that are going to energize you are probably activities that involve talking to, working with, being with other people. If you're a more introverted, reflective person, you're probably going to get energized from activities that withdraw you from other people and therefore allow you to spend time on your own and think in that way. And again, it goes back to balance. So there's a brilliant example of this. And I think is it Brian Little, the professor who does personality psychology. He's written some great books about it. Talks about being a presenter and being an introvert, and therefore actually when he's running a workshop or he's on stage doing a presentation, the bits of time where he's off stage are really important to him because that's the recovery time. That's the
Right.
time. So if he's doing a workshop all day, he needs to be able to have some time in that workshop, maybe lunchtime, where he doesn't go off with the group and carry on entertaining and talking to them. He goes off and does something else, often on his own, because that's how he charges up his energy. So I think it's a really interesting thought of saying, when you look at your diary, if you've got to do this, I'll give you an example the other way around. If you're a really quiet, chilled out type of reflective person, and you look at your diary and go, I've got 3 days of back-to-back meetings. It's going to exhaust you. It's not that you can't do it. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it. We can do whatever we want. We can choose to put our energy in it, but it's going to exhaust you. But if you could take those 3 days of back-to-back meetings and actually put a one-to-one, with somebody you're quite close to in the middle of it of every day, or give yourself an hour a day to go away and read and catch up on your emails. That might be enough to balance out your energy and not have you come out of it feeling shattered.
Yeah, that's interesting because we do a lot of client-facing work. We spend a lot of time with groups, and at the end of a day, I'm more inclined to want to go and spend time with the group and talk about stuff, anything.
Because that's
Where
where you get your energy from.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas, perhaps Rob,
I want them to go away.
yeah, yeah, Rob, for example, would want to go and have a walk and clear his head and kind of retune himself, ready for that social activity he's going to do over
Yeah,
dinner or whatever it might be.
yeah,
So, whereas I'm like, no, no, let's get straight to the let's get straight to the bar. Let's talk about stuff.
yeah. And I think you've noticed that when you and I work together, that I want a gap in the evening. I want a break. I want to sometimes I want to have lunch with the group because I want a break. Because that's me looking for my recovery time. And it's not that I can't do that. And if the group, don't get me wrong, if the group need me to go to lunch and talk about something, of course I will go to lunch and talk about something. But if I can get a bit of time away, that's quite helpful for me in that process. In the same way as often when we're working places, I quite like the drive home. But if you think about when we first met, when we first started working together, and I worked in a very different way. So I was the one mostly in the office back in those days, on my own in the office. We'd talk every morning on the drive home and the drive in, and every
We would,
afternoon on the
yeah,
drive. Yeah, because that I was more able to do that then because I was fully charged up. And whereas actually after a workshop day, some days I don't want to talk on the way back to anybody. Sometimes I don't even want to listen to a podcast because it's just too much effort.
yeah.
So it's that, look at your diary, take control of your diary and go, if I'm working outside of the way I'd like to work for long periods of time, how do I break that up with things that are good for me?
Or proactively plan your diary with those things in.
Yeah.
And if you're coming off the back of 3 days of intense activity, and that activity is something that drains you, don't put in the very next day something that's going to compound that. Find some time in there to do something that's going to allow you to be, more, you know, better choice around how you spend your time. So you're doing the energy enhancing things, not the energy sapping things.
Yeah, and I think you just remind me of something there. It's a really good thing that I've often done with leadership groups when we work with them, when we take them away somewhere and we work with them for 2 or 3 days. And I always say to them, think about some of this stuff, but from Monday. Because for some people, you want to go running back into the office the next day, Thursday morning, and go, I've had all these thoughts. Because for the people who are really enjoyed that social time together, actually the risk for them is not that they've got energy, it's they've got too much. And so if you took a leadership team away for 2 days and have a really great time, some of them are going to leave that event, have had 2 days of energy recharging activities, and they're going back into the office like Tigger. And some of them have had 2 days of energy depleting activities, even though they've all done the same thing. And they're going to walk back into the office like Eeyore. And what I say to the leadership teams we work in is your staff don't want either of those characters turning up. So go and sort your energies out and then hit them with your new idea. Give yourself 24 hours. If you're Tigger, go and find some way to release some energy, not on your team. Nobody likes being bounced on. And if you're Eeyore, don't walk back in and look like the world is ending. You've had an offsite for 2 days. You'll scare the hell out of the staff.
Yeah, they're going to go, oh, hang on a minute. What was that then?
And it's just that's the sort of the mind bit. And then
Talk to me about spirit then.
I'm the ghost of no
Christmas future,
Christmas
past.
future. Yeah, I would definitely be Christmas past. So spirit it comes back to, I think 2 words strike me when I get to spirit on this one. One is authenticity. Am I allowed to be me? Every day I walk into an environment and I'm trying to be something else, either because the environment doesn't allow me to be me, or because I've decided I shouldn't be me. And that's come up, you can think of times that's come up in coaching where people are taking on a persona or a way of working that is not them. They just feel that's the way they should work. And the obvious, slightly twee example, working with female leaders who have to be more one of the boys, and it's just not them. Yeah, that's really draining.
Well, we had that, didn't we? Because we had one of the leadership teams we worked with was all male bar one female. And, actually, what she was very good at is protecting her authenticity.
Yes.
She didn't, effectively default to fitting in and being one of the boys. She did find a way to fit in, but it was a very different approach. Um, but every now and again, she would have to be one of the boys in order to get a point across, because otherwise she just got missed in terms of her point.
Yeah, and if it's every now and then, you've probably got the energy to step up and do that in the same way you've got the energy to, go on stage and talk to the whole company if you're the shyest introvert. But if that was your job, if that's all day, every day, being inauthentic, that takes a toll. And you see, and I've come across people you coach who are just trying to conform to a view of what they should look like, act like, be like, for whatever reason. There's a whole host of reasons that might be, where they feel like their identity doesn't match the expectation. And sometimes that's the organization or the society placing that on them. Sometimes it's them placing it on themselves, and no one's actually asking them to be that in the first place. So that's one half of it, that kind of spirit and authenticity. The other half for me is purpose, which is I'm turning up every day and I don't know why I'm here or what's the point, or I don't feel like I can win. And again, when you're in those situations, if you don't know what you're trying to do or why it's worth doing, or you feel like it doesn't matter what you do, you can't win, that's not nice.
Both those examples strike me as perhaps conflicts with your personal values. I see the world one way, but the organization or the group that I'm working with see it a different way. And I've now got a choice whether I want to compromise and fit in, or whether I try and create what I might perceive to be a level of conflict by having some different perspectives around that. And I think that's the same in terms of, both the authenticity piece and the purpose piece, because I'm here and yes, I'm collecting the paycheck every month, but actually I don't get it. I don't get what we're here. I don't get what we're trying to do,
Yeah. Or worse still,
or my role in that.
yeah, or I do get it and I don't care.
Yeah, even worse.
And I think, I think back to people I've coached. It's not that they've gone in knowing that was the case. So very often it's because something's changed. It could be within them, or it could be, the organization's changed. I joined and we were all going that way, and some things have happened in the world and now we're going this way, and I don't really care about this way.
Or I've had a new boss and their way of working is very different to the old way, and
Yeah.
that's caused this kind of tension between between them and you, and that's it. And it's not that one is right or wrong, it's just different.
It's just different. Yeah. I think of a scenario where we work with a group of salespeople in a large company. Um, and we were just helping them deal with the fact they were changing the sales methodology. So they've just, using, I don't know, sales methodology A, and now they're using sales methodology B. And we do a lot of work with sales methodologies. In my head, they're all much of a muchness anyway. But it's a slightly different way of working. But you could see a lot of people were like, well, I've spent a lot of time learning A, and I know how to do that. I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at it. And I don't want the uncomfortableness of doing all these new things that I'm not very good at. So I feel like I'm turning up every day and I'm not very good at my job anymore. And I don't know if I can be asked with this anymore, type thing. And that's quite tiring.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of summarize this in some practical things that people can do then in terms of recharging. So in body, what we're saying is get some rest or do something different for a period of time, create, a different activity.
I think it's understanding what are the activities that actually charge you. What is it? Is it around, you getting the right amount of sleep? Are you eating the right sort of foods? Have you got the kind of activities, whether that's exercise or social, that kind of energize you? And making sure even at your busiest times, they're not the things that you give up to create more time for work, because they're the things that are making you better at the work.
So they're going to compromise you if you
Yeah.
allow them.
And I don't mean for a day. If you go, I've got a really big presentation, I'm not going to the pub with my mates on Tuesday night, that's fine. But if you go, work's really busy, I'm not going to see my friends for 6 months, that's not fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's in body. In mind, it's just understanding, how do I like to work? That's the first thing. And it's probably related to personalities. There's billions of free personality profiling tools you can use. Just do a bit of research, because there is some really good free ones, and there's some really awful kind of BuzzFeed quiz type stuff out there that isn't really going to tell you very much other than, yes, you are this Pokemon. And once you understand how you like to work, go, when I'm being asked to work in a way that I'm not massively comfortable with, it's not that I'm not going to do that, but how do I wrap around that in my diary and in my planning some time doing stuff that I am comfortable with? Because that will give me balance and recharge me, stop me being draining.
So set yourself up for success, not for failure in that regard, i.e., to drain yourself.
Yeah. And that takes just a little bit of planning and thinking ahead.
Yep.
And then in spirit, ask yourself, do you know why you're here? And do you buy into that? And if you don't, then go, well, is this the place for me? Or, can I find a reason to be here? Can I find a purpose? And I think very often we think, oh, purpose is big and meaningful and I have to go and find a new one somewhere else. But actually, that's rarely true. I think very often, if you sat and thought about where you are right now, you could find a purpose for yourself within that, even if it's quite a selfish purpose of, well, actually, this isn't the kind of work I see myself doing for the rest of my life, but look what I could learn here in the next 6 months. That's a purpose.
Yeah. Or it gives me a level of freedom to do other things. So I can go and do something different, but it means a lot of traveling. And actually, from a family standpoint, where I am right now means I get to see my family more. So everything has trade-offs, right?
Yeah, everything has trade-offs. So just be honest about that. And then the second question under spirit is, can I be me? And that's not to say that you're going to get to be your true, authentic, whatever you want to be, eccentric self at work every day, because no one does. We all put on a bit of a face at work, but there's a real difference between a bit of a face and actually, I'm somebody else when I walk into here.
Yeah. You don't want to spend all day in your alter ego, do you?
No.
Next time on The Question Is.
It might be cultural, but it might be power or inequity or powerlessness, the feeling that I have no ability to say no, no right to say no, that's built into the way this place works or the power structures that exist around you. That might be causing the people pleaser behavior.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organization, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.